Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most complex moves a company can possibly make, splitting in two. We're going to walk through the essential 30-day playbook for pulling off a successful corporate separation.
So picture this. The press release drops, the market goes wild, and a massive company decides to split up. That single announcement kicks off an absolutely frantic race against the clock. And the success or failure of a multi-billion-dollar operation often comes down to what happens in that very first month.
And let me be clear, this is not some leisurely planning session. It's about mobilizing an entire organization. We're talking sometimes tens of thousands of people under intense pressure. The goal is to build a rock-solid blueprint that's going to guide every single decision for the next year or so. If you get it wrong, you're not just off track, you are headed straight for chaos.
Okay, so what exactly has to happen in this super critical 30-day window? The real challenge is moving from a high-level, kind of vague strategy to a detailed, actionable plan. And you have to do it fast. It really boils down to 6 non-negotiable things in that first month. You have to set up a command center, lock down the budget, untangle all your existing projects, and coordinate with the buyer. And here's the kicker. Each one of these is a huge hurdle, and they all have to be cleared at the same time at lightning speed.
Right, so it all kicks off with assembling the right team to lead the charge. You know, an operation this complex absolutely needs a central nervous system.
And that's where the Divestiture Management Office, or DMO, comes in. Seriously, think of it like mission control. It's staffed with senior leaders from every single corner of the business. You've got IT, HR, finance, legal, you name it. Their whole job is to provide direction, resolve conflicts, and just keep every single moving part on track.
The DMO officially gets going at a formal kickoff meeting. This is where everybody gets on the same page about the what and the when. But, just as important, they clarify the who. They'll often use a tool like a RASI matrix to define exactly who is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed for every task. It's all about squashing confusion before it can even start. All right, so the team is in place. Their first and most critical task is to answer the million, or let's be real, probably billion-dollar question. What is this whole thing actually going to cost?
And what's really interesting here is how the budget actually takes shape. It starts as a top-down estimate before the announcement, which is basically a rough guess based on similar deals. But in these first 30 days, all the department leaders build a detailed bottom-up budget based on their specific needs. The final, realistic number comes from reconciling those two views.
And this brings up a key piece of financial wisdom. You have got to plan for the unknown. A contingency fund, or a buffer, of somewhere between 5 and 15% gets added to that final estimate. And this isn't just padding the numbers. It's a realistic admission that, hey, surprises are going to happen.
So where does all that money actually go? It's broken down into 2 main buckets. You've got labor costs, which cover the people doing the work, both internal employees and external consultants. And then there are non-labor costs, which cover pretty much everything else, from travel and training to new hardware and software licenses. Okay, so finalizing a budget is one thing, but you also have to free up the people and the cash to actually do the work. And this means taking a long, hard look at everything the company is already doing.
This is where a project rationalization framework comes in, and it acts as a critical filter. Leaders go through every single project in the pipeline to decide what can be put on pause. Look, this isn't about canceling good ideas. It's about freeing up essential people and funding to make sure the company's #1 priority gets the resources it needs to succeed. At the end of the day, the ultimate goal is simple to say, but incredibly difficult to pull off. Getting hundreds, sometimes thousands of people, including the buyer's team, all aligned on a single integrated plan. This is just a monumental challenge of coordination and communication.
So how in the world do you actually do that? Well, one of the most effective methods is a powerful, collaborative, and surprisingly low-tech session. It's about bringing everyone together in one room with a giant visual timeline, an approach people often call a walk the wall.
But make no mistake, that big meeting is anything but improvised. It's actually the final step of a really meticulous process. Before anyone even walks into that room, each team has already inventoried its assets, defined its strategy, and drafted a timeline. The Walk the Wall session is where all those individual plans come together to be pressure tested and integrated into a single master roadmap.
So, what does success look like when you follow this playbook? Let's look at a real-world example of how this structured approach works, especially when the pressure's on.
In this case, a global bank acquired a lending portfolio and faced a super complex separation on a crazy short timeline. To manage hundreds of moving parts, they did exactly what the playbook recommends. They established a central office, ran a bunch of alignment workshops, and secured executive buy-in every step of the way. And the result? An issue-free legal day one. But what's really important here is that there was zero impact on customers. By following the playbook, they navigated incredible complexity and proved that this model absolutely works.
So when you boil it all down, those first 30 days really do determine the entire trajectory. Meticulous, upfront planning isn't just a nice-to-have, it is the single best investment a company can make to turn potential chaos into coordinated, successful action.
And that leaves us with one final thought. It's a question worth considering, because in today's dynamic business world, this scenario is more common than ever. Having a playbook like this isn't just about managing a deal, it's about building organizational resilience. Thanks for watching.